Welcome to the Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. I'm Anthony.
Hey Rocco, how you doing?
Oh, we're back for another Wednesday bonus segment. This week's bonus segment is about our journey through the KISS album reviews, what we learned, and what, if anything, has changed.
I think a lot's changed actually.
I think a lot has changed too, which is part of the interesting part of this. I think both of us came into this with a certain set of opinions and ideas, and I won't speak for you, but mine have greatly changed over the journey.
Yeah, I can say mine has too. It's been fun because at least for me, there were a few albums there that I was really looking forward to and had no idea what I would be getting myself into, and it definitely was it's been an interesting ride, let's just say.
Yeah, I learned a lot during the course of the album reviews that I didn't know. All right, what do you say we start right in on this? So the first thing that I learned in this journey is that Kiss used a lot of ghost musicians. But what I found really interesting is once you start digging into that, that was by no means a Kiss thing. It was it was really everybody. Anybody that thinks that the normal thing is to have the members of the band play on all the songs, I guess that isn't a normal thing. I mean, in the course of researching this kind of stuff, it wasn't unusual for Aerosmith to bring in session musicians. It was not unusual for Eddie Van Halen to play bass on Van Halen tracks, or drums for that matter on Van Halen tracks. Like, this isn't that unusual. I think it's a fan perspective that we think, well, this is the way it should be. And I can't tell you how many fans that I've heard over the years, or read online, that hate Psycho Circus because Peter mostly doesn't play on it. Well, you better start hating a lot of bands. I mean, I think it's wrong, and I prefer when all four of the members play on every song. I was watching an interview last week. I can't remember who the producer was, but it was the price of doing business. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's not unusual," and I think I can't remember for sure if it was a Kiss producer or not, but it was just the fact that, well, if you don't have a band member that can create what you're looking for, will you just call somebody else in there and have
Yeah,
them do it?
they give you a different flavor you're looking for. I mean, listen, the bands in the industry at that time and this time now, they know who the top guys to go to are. I think probably the epitome of a person who knows where to go is Alice Cooper. Like Alice Cooper knows the creme de la creme to go to in every category of instrumentation. I'll tell you what, I'll start out the conversation by saying there were probably two of the most albums I was looking forward to reviewing. Like I knew I was going to love Creatures, just not to the level I do. Um, but The Elder I was looking forward to listening to and giving it a chance, and Carnival of Souls. The Elder was better than I expected, and there was more substance to it. Obviously, there was a lot that could have been done better, and it was actually it was an enjoyable thing going through The Elder, just because I had completely blew it off when I was a kid, and I got to really give it my all to get a good take of it. And then Carnival of Souls, I've said this on other podcasts of ours, on other episodes, that I was like, okay, Kiss did I didn't I had checked out at that point, and Kiss did a grunge album. Are you kidding me? I love Alice in Chains and I like Pearl Jam. I'm like, Kiss is going to try to do that. Give me a break. I love Kiss, but there's no way they're going to pull it off. Carnival of Souls ended up being one of my favorite albums. When we list them, it's way up there for me. So those were the two albums I was looking forward to the most. And overall, for the most part, I think I came out enjoying both albums. I mean, The Elder's definitely not going to be up there for me, but it was definitely a hell of a lot better than I ever thought it was going to be.
For me, I'll see you those albums and I'll raise you Sonic Boom and Monster. Well, really, for me, it was more. I thought I knew Creatures of the Night much better than, as it turned out, I did know. I underappreciated Creatures of the Night. Carnival of Souls, I never gave a chance. It's so much better than I expected it to be. And although I'm not crazy about Sonic Boom's production, Sonic Boom and Monster, for being what's probably the last two Kiss albums, are very good representations of the band. They're never going to be my favorite. And part of that reason is Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer. Production issues to me killed Sonic Boom, and maybe age and maybe lack of material and lack of artistic ideas might be what hurt Monster. Just because I just, it's not an endless run of artistic ideas, I think. Like, I killed Gene for singing about women taking off their clothes for 50 years. Part of the problem is you're sitting there trying to write a song and you're like, yeah, God of Thunder, Detroit Rock City, War Machine, this shit's not coming in my head. Oh, wait. Oh, let me go back to singing about women taking off their clothes. Yeah, that'll work. I mean, I just think you run out of material. We film these episodes and then I edit them. And a lot of times during the editing process, I kind of have a conversation with myself. Probably not a good thing, but I think I have a conversation with myself and I almost justify sometimes what I've said, or I argue sometimes with what I've said.
I've done that before too.
Because I have more time to think about it. But all in all, no matter how much credit Creatures gets, it will always be an underrated album, I believe, because I think it's up there as an all-time great album, period. Not just an all-time great Kiss album. I think it's an all-time great album, and if it hasn't gotten that credit yet, it's never going to get that credit. As fans, we need to stop labeling music, and we all do it, and that's part of the reason why Carnival of Souls never got a chance, because everybody said, "Oh, it's a grunge album," and all of us that
Well, and also the reunion and all that stuff, and you know
right,
what I
but
mean. It wasn't properly marketed, and there's a lot of layers to that one. That's an interesting. That whole scenario is interesting on how that all took place.
but for me, I hated grunge. I still don't like grunge. I,
That's
I
not for
still
everybody.
I still don't know grunge. And part of that reason is I don't want to know grunge. So I don't listen to Pearl Jam. I don't listen to Alice in Chains. I like the same three Nirvana songs that everybody else likes, but I like Carnival of Souls. Look, I don't like everything on it, but there are 5 or 6 songs on Carnival of Souls that I really like. And I had to get past that grunge label for it.
Like Kiss was always criticized. Oh, they did a disco album. They did this. They did that. You know what? But they didn't. They weren't stale and boring with the same old stuff every single album. They gave you something different. I told you before. If I'm in the mood to listen to dance music, but I want to hear Kiss's flavor, I can listen to Kiss Dynasty. You know what I mean? If I want to listen to grunge, but I'm not listening in the mood to listen to Alice in Chains, and I want to hear Gene or I want to hear Paul singing grunge, I can go Carnival of Souls. Like, to me, there's very few bands that there's something for everybody. And if we were trying to sell somebody on Kiss, we could find 5 songs that would be hard pressed for like anybody to not like.
Well, it's never boring as a Kiss fan.
This is true.
They didn't always hit a home run, but it was never boring. So one of my other things is in this the original Kiss album, the debut album is a masterpiece that I don't think gets the credit for being the masterpiece that it should. Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Firehouse, Cold Gin, Deuce, 100,000 Years, Black Diamond, all great, great songs that I never gave it the credit that I now give it for being the masterpiece that it is.
And you just saying that, it hit me a certain way. You just saying that, it hit me a certain way because I don't think it hit me a certain way because I don't think that, like, I got to go back and look at some of these albums again because I have Creatures of the Night so much in my head, and I love Lick It Up too is still sitting there too. But it's been so long since we reviewed the first album, and you just named all those songs. It makes me like question now. I'm like, how can that very first album not be my all-time favorite?
Well,
There's
you're
not.
only going to be allowed to have one all-time favorite.
I know, but think about it. Think about the songs that you listed off of that very
Oh,
first album.
I have. It's incredible.
Right. I mean, and you discussed this. I remember vaguely when we did the episode, how I was like, it's amazing how they had all that, but you were how they had all that good songs on the very first album, but they also had the longest amount of time to put those songs down on that first album.
If you last the test of time, that's really the barometer to greatness.
You name those songs as you just now, like literally just now, as we're talking about it, you listed those songs, and I'm waiting for you to list a song on that album that's not like.
Well, I didn't list two songs. I mean, in fairness, I didn't list two songs. Kissin' Time,
Oh, okay.
which I think sucks, but it was also forced to be put on. It was not originally on the album. It was forced on by the record label. And I didn't put Love Theme from Kiss just because it's an instrumental. Like they're the two songs that I didn't list.
If they weren't on that album, to be honest with you, their first album is my number one album. I don't see how you can beat it.
I'm not going to get into a big discussion because at some point we're going to do this, and I don't really.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I come out of this too respecting them as musicians so much, and I know that Gene doesn't like to take credit for his musicianship, but to me, I don't think a lot of bands could be able to be versatile and be able to pull off, even if you don't like the albums, the Carnival of Souls, and you don't like the Elder. Listen, the Elder is not everybody's cup of tea, but they challenged themselves musically very much on that album. And I think that they always try to recreate themselves, and that's not easy to do. So I respect them all. Me personally, I respect them so much more, even more now after doing this as musicians.
Yeah, they should get more credit than they get for getting out of their comfort zone and doing something that was extremely challenging, extremely different, and as it turned out, extremely unpopular. Almost 45 years later, we're still all talking about the Elder. We're
True.
not all saying nice things about it,
Right.
but I can tell you this much: the Elder gets talked about more, really more than any other album in the entire collection.
It's pretty true. That's
So,
true.
I can't think. I mean, we talk about Creatures of the Night a lot, but I think we talk about the Elder more. We went right past albums like Destroyer and Love Gun because, well, they're supposed to be great. They're great. Let's move on.
Right.
The Elder is an enigma, just like Vinny.
Well, I, for one, am very proud to, I'm even more proud now to be a KISS fan. I love this band. I'll always love this band. There's things that they do that drive me crazy. There's things that they do money wise, money grab that drives you nuts. But they've given, as a KISS fan, they've given me more stuff to listen to and to watch on video. They've entertained me my entire life, and I'm very proud to be a KISS fan. And I'm thanking you again for stirring this Kissdom back up in me, because it's been a fun ride, and we got more to go with other solo albums and things going down the line, and other side subjects and stuff. But going through all the studio albums has been a really enjoyable experience for me.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
What do you got?
Do you YouTube?
I'm always on YouTube.
When you YouTube, how do you support the YouTubers that you like?
If I find something I dig, I subscribe to it and I hit like right away.
That's a great idea. I'm sure the creators appreciate your support.
I would think so.
You think maybe now's a good time to ask everyone in the audience to support us?
Absolutely.
To everyone in the audience, please subscribe to our little channel. And while you're there, hit the like button.
We're enjoying what we're doing, and we want to continue to grow the hooligan community.
We appreciate all your support.
Absolutely.
My next item is Gene and Paul were always about business first. It amazes me. I put on an interview, doesn't matter what podcast or what YouTube channel, you put on an interview with anybody that worked for or worked with KISS up until today, and you deal directly with Gene and Paul, and it's about business. Doesn't matter whether we're talking about 1973, 1974. When somebody met with KISS in the early 70s, you met with either Paul or Gene, or Paul and Gene. Nobody ever talks about, oh, I met with Ace first. Nope. Ace couldn't be bothered. Ace was a rock star. Oh, I met with Peter first. Nope. Peter couldn't be bothered. Peter was a rock star. Everybody, and most of the time, and this may shock you, it shocked me, all through the years, doesn't matter whether we're talking about the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s, most of the time, first meeting, I met with Gene. Oh, who'd you meet with first? I met with Gene first, and then I met with Paul. Like 1985, 1986, everybody talks about, oh, Gene was checked out. Gene might have been checked out artistically. Gene might have been checked out musically. Gene might have been checked out mostly physically. But business-wise, Gene doesn't seem to have been that checked out. There isn't one instance where somebody said, oh, I met with Ace. Or, oh, I met with Peter. Not one time? You mean not one time the four band members were somewhere, anywhere, and Paul said, oh, I'm busy tomorrow, and Gene was like, oh, I have something tomorrow. Hey, Ace, can you go talk to this costume designer? Nope. Didn't happen. Was 100% Paul and Gene. They didn't say, hey, you're our manager, go manage. Like, we have better things to do. It seems to me like they never did that.
It seems to me that, again, there are times where shade is thrown on Gene and Paul for doing Peter and Ace dirty in some ways. But there's also another aspect of it that never gets talked about. They were the core, and they were the consistent force to make those decisions so that Peter and Ace could be rock stars and just focus on playing.
I would think it had to create problems, but maybe it didn't, because Paul and Gene are such control freaks. KISS was always Paul and Gene's band.
Yep.
There's a lot of assorted people that talk very good about Ace and Peter. And then there's then there's some people that in the course of talking to them, they're like, yeah, I never met Ace or Peter. How did you never meet them? Like, that's amazing to me. Like Dennis Wallach was an art designer for, I guess, for Glickman Marks, and somehow he was involved with a coin management. And every interview you listen to or watch from him, it's Gene and Paul, Gene and Paul, Gene and Paul. Did you ever see Ace or Peter in the Glickman Marks office? No. Did you ever see them at Bill Coin's office? No. But Paul and Gene were there. Oh, Paul and Gene were there almost every day. I don't
I mean,
know whether to
but
look at that as Gene and Paul had to control everything, or Ace and Peter were so uninterested in the business end that Gene and Paul had to step up. And did Ace and Peter create the problem, or was Paul and Gene the problem from the beginning because they have to control everything?
yeah, I think honestly, there's probably a little of both. I mean, they're definitely control freaks. So I could see it could have been one of those things where it was the dynamic the way it started. And maybe in the beginning, Ace and Peter were comfortable with it.
If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. And if you just found us, check out our past episodes. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel and you like this episode, please consider hitting the like button and leaving us a comment. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. And check out these episodes right up here somewhere. As always, if you made it this far, thank you for supporting us. And don't forget, if it's too loud, you're too old. Peace out, Hooligan Nation.